So in a lot of my past roles where I've headed up talent functions, and now as an executive coach, I do a lot of work with internal talent. So the organisation often will invest time and energy to support the growth of their internal talent because they want to see their leaders moving on and rising to successive roles within the organisation. However, there's always the option for the company to go externally. So candidates internally have got to understand that they're operating in a sort of a very competitive market. There are their peers around them who are also aspiring to increasingly less and less senior positions as you get more senior. So there's an internal competition underway. And also there's always the external candidate. And organisations, will look externally, often because they want to look for something that they perceive as being different. So my advice to internal candidates is to think very carefully about how you sort of market and you brand yourself, understanding the different competitors that you're facing within the organisation. Now, I've talked a little bit on previous videos about this concept of PI, so this idea of performance, impact and exposure. That's something that you should do whatever. It's a good template for how you think about managing your career. I would like to talk a little bit in this video there about the concept of the external. So how do you compete against the sort of faceless external person that could also be looked at by the organisation? And in simple terms, I think there's a few things you can do to make yourself seen as being more viable than an external candidate. So let's think about what's driving the thought process from an organisational level. At an organisational level, it knows its people pretty well. So you're probably a bit of a known quantity. But organisations tend to only index on what you've done in the organisation. So almost you come to them as like a blank slate. So you may have had, say, 10, 15 years experience outside the organisation, but they'll tend to just really know you as the person within the role you've most recently been doing. So I always say to candidates, it's very important that you make sure you fully optimize your experience in CV. So you need to be talking up as an internal candidate all the things you've done before you did this role, because there's a good chance there's things that you've done previously that people, first of all, they don't know about, but actually can be critically important for future roles. So I'd say it's really important as part of your narrative and your branding internally that you make people realize you're not just the person they see sort of today, as it were. There are other things that you have done. And that's critically important, because often organisations, the reason they go external is they want something new and a bit different. Now, if you've got things in your past that they don't know about, well, that's new and different. So you can make yourself as attractive, or sometimes more attractive than external candidates, because effectively you're just re-mining and you're repackaging all the things you've previously done. The second area I think of advantage is you have a home court advantage. If you think about an external candidate, they have got to convince some kind of selection process that they've got the technical capable skills to do the job. They've got to convince the process that they are indeed then going to land well and not in any way sort of derail. So there's got to be like a cultural fit component, and also they've got to convince that the organisation, they're in it for sort of the long haul. They're not going to stay for just a year or something and then leave. So those are all challenges that an external candidate has to overcome. And again, I can probably do a different video to support external candidates. So as an internal candidate, don't forget you've got the home court advantage. So that's what I would also be stressing in your narratives and your conversations, and if you're in interview processes. If you understand the negatives of the external candidates, you can turn those into your positives. So you can talk about the fact that you really understand deeply how the organisation works. You understand how to navigate the complexities of the relationships, which an external candidate will take a lot longer to pick up. You will be culturally nested in the organisation. You wouldn't be at the interview process if you weren't perceived as being, a leader that's got the right kind of behaviours, the right kind of impact. You're supporting the culture. So you can talk very much about how you are already a cultural fit, and therefore the derailing opportunities are very low. It's very unlikely that you're going to derail in a new position, unless it's something very, very different than you've done in the past. And I think lastly, there's something also about the psychology around risk. We know evolutionary, our evolutionary programming and sort of back of our skull is very much around same is safe and different is danger. And that plays out in lots of ways in organisations. So although you have the challenge that an external candidate can look sort of new and shiny and bring all this new dimension, I think you as an internal candidate can say, yes, but I can offer you the safety and security. I think what you would then need to do is to show the capacity for growth. The way you offset the risk around, it's just sort of safe pair of hands, I'm not going to set the world on fire, is, well, how would you demonstrate that you have got this extra gear that they're looking for? And if you can do that, then suddenly, you as an internal candidate, you're offering a lot of the advantages of an external candidate, but with none of the risks. And then what I tend to find is the external candidates then have to be exceptionally better than the internal candidate. And really, if organisations are committed to internal talent, you should only go external if there's a very specific skill set that they're just completely lacking in the organisation. Really, you should be focusing on growing your talent. So if you're an internal talent, you have the home court advantage, but only if you learn how to use it. I hope that helps.